Hello, MotoAmerica fans. Welcome to another edition of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. I'm Paul Carruthers, the communications manager for MotoAmerica, and I'm joined as always by my partner, Sean Bice. I'm in California. He's in Ohio. Our guest today is also in California, only up in that part up top there that's not really as good. But we'll talk about that later. Sean, we're back from where were we? The Ridge. I
Yes.
was I was pretty happy with the Ridge. Those first couple of years, this was our fourth year. The first couple of years I was worried, like, I don't know if this event will take off, if we'll start to get some people. But this year I was, it's one of those things where it's kind of like you're in a bar or a restaurant and no one's there, and all of a sudden you look up and it's packed. Uh,
Yeah.
it kind of gave me that same feeling, which was cool because it kind of seemed like a real event. And obviously that gives us hope for continuing to go there and continuing to grow that crowd. So it was nice to see.
Yeah, there were a lot of people. I mean, I really noticed it this year. It was great. It was great to see that. I mean, they had a little carnival thing going there too, but they definitely had that. It's always that thing. If it's difficult for us to move around the paddock, then that's a good thing because there's a lot of fans there. So it was cool, and it's an underserved area for us, so it's good that we're able to hit that part of the country. There are fans all over the world and for MotoAmerica, but in our country, certainly it's all over there, this country, and it's nice to get some West Coast stuff going. And Pacific Northwest is cool anyway. What a different world that is. I mean, maybe not so much for you, Paul, I don't know, but it just feels so different from where I'm from. Just the way, there's just so many trees, and it feels like Maine to me a little bit, which makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
You get that feeling,
Yeah,
but
it's a lot different than down here, obviously, as well. But and it's
yeah,
also works out cool. We have that event, and then we follow it up a weekend off, and then follow it up with Laguna Seca. So all the guys that travel from the east, the teams and stuff can kind of stay and not have to go back and forth. So it works out well. And the Laguna Seca event, I think, is just gonna really blow up. I mean, if I, just all the people that are, call me wanting passes. And it's funny, I got my yearly text from Joe Roberts yesterday, so he's all about it. So him and his brother are gonna come up, and
yeah,
the media, we're gonna have more media there than we've ever had.
that's
Um,
really good.
so yeah, I'm gonna be excited. It's gonna be one that's gonna be difficult to move around in the paddock, and that's always a good thing, and it should be cool. But obviously, we've got a guest here today that I think is probably looking forward to Laguna Seca as much or even more than us because of the success he's had there, and also it's racing close to home for him. So I know he gets a lot of family and friends. So let's welcome in Cameron Beaubier to the show. Cameron, how are you today?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no worries. So talking about Laguna, I mean, well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about what we've done so far. There's been 4 rounds and 8 races. You've got 3 wins, 5 total podiums, a DNF from a mechanical, and a crash because you were a bonehead. So you just kidding. You pretty much ran the table there on. I mean, you've already done it all. Now it's just a matter of getting rid of the 2 bad parts and moving on. But you're 23 points behind Jake Gagne going into Laguna. He's won 4 races. You've won 3. It really comes down to the fact that you do have an extra DNF than he does. And then also we've got Josh Herron that's lurking there in 3rd place, and he also has a victory. So how do you rank this season so far? I mean, a lot of us will say we're surprised that you're doing this well this quickly. Are you surprised?
Yes and no. I mean, I would say I was a little surprised based off of I was surprised with the success we've had so early based off of how testing was going earlier this year because we were trying a lot of stuff, moving the bike around, trying some new parts, but we knew we had some new parts coming that we got this we tested at Brainerd, a new frame, swing arm, and then also tried some stuff at this last race at Ridge. But to answer your question, yes, I was a little surprised to be able to win Atlanta. Even at the during the weekend because Jake had like 8 or 9 tenths on us in qualifying and practice on race tires. So yeah, I mean, I think I really was able to use my bike as a weapon in that race, and it's pretty good on used tire or new tires, and I was able to track Jake down and control the pace because my bike was so fast. But I was doing everything I could just to keep him behind me, because I knew if he opened up a gap on used tires, I was done for. He was going to ride it home. So it's been an exciting start to the year, though.
Cameron, I've got so many questions for you. It's just insane, but I'll try to calm myself down a little bit here, because I'll pace myself.
Ducati, he's won a race.
Oh, I interrupted you, Cameron.
What?
I interrupted you. I thought you were.
Can you hear me? Oh, yeah. Sorry. I thought you were saying something. Anyways, yeah, no, it's been super exciting. I feel like it's been super good for the championship too. Just, and the people watching, just, there's been multiple races already. There's 3 manufacturers on the podium, and it's exciting and it's fun.
Yeah, my apologies, Cameron. I jumped in too soon. I said I have a million questions for you, and I couldn't even. I'm chomping at the bit here. I couldn't even. But hey, I want to ask you a couple things. So to start with, we all kind of thought we know the speed of that BMW, and to your point about Road Atlanta, we thought, okay, Road Atlanta's fast. I mean, it's got. They say that one section is as fast as we go, at Road America. So you got some speed, and we thought, okay, the thing is all about top speed. The handling, I don't know, front end, I'm not sure, but it's like when we get to the tracks that are a little more compact, Barber, whatever, it's going to be a tougher situation for you. And it's kind of been that way, but it kind of hasn't. I mean, it's weird. Like at Road America, I mean, Jake did okay on a track that was like a speed track sort of thing. So I don't know. Do you think it's really either or with your bike and with your team?
Yeah, it's tough to say. Like, even still, after how well we did at Ridge, and yeah, we had our struggles at Barber and stuff, but I really think that there's just, I mean, we're just in a situation where each bike has its positives and negatives, and I think it's going to make for an exciting end of the year. That's for sure. But yeah, like for example, Barber. I had the guys working. Dave and Dave. We were making the call to swap some swing arms even in practice, and that's never what you want to do. During a practice, you want to be making fine tuning the bike, getting it ready to go racing. So, but I mean, it's the guys on my team are so good. They've been swapping that. They've swapped the swing arm so many times that they've got it down to like 5 minutes. So it's no problem for them to throw something in mid session. So we're slowly getting dialed in. Like I said, we've been getting some new parts and stuff like that. This last weekend at Ridge, I was coming in and I was expecting more so along the lines of what we dealt with at Barber, where we were just a little off the Yamahas. But Peter, my electronics guy, he brought over some new software from Europe, and I feel like I really made a little step on the engine brake. And then also we have a new swing arm that we went back and forth on at the test at Brainerd, and I really didn't feel anything over a lap. But when the tire drops, I felt like it was a lot more manageable, and I feel like that's really where we need to take advantage of this bike, because it has so much power. But when you have power, it just makes the thing pretty aggressive to ride. So we're just trying to tame it down, especially over race distance. And yeah, the guys are doing great.
So I'm not sure how much of this in detail you can reveal or whatever, but from what I've observed, and even recently with the story that Road Racing World put out where they were showing your bike, it seems to me that all three of the bikes that are with your team, I mean, Corey Alexander's bike is different than PJ's bike. PJ's bike is different than yours. And from what I can tell, it looks like yours seems to be the closest to what they're doing in World Superbike. And I know Alpha Racing has a lot to do with your program. Is it true that the bikes are actually, they're all BMW M1000 RRs, but there's some differences among all three of them? Is that correct?
That is true. That is true. So Corey's on last year's bike.
Right.
And then PJ and I are on the current bikes. There's not a ton different, but for example, like I got that new frame that I tried at Brainerd, and it's a little stiffer. It's just braced a little bit stiffer, and that's what the World Superbike guys are on the BMWs right now over there. That's what they're on. At Brainerd, I noticed that it was stiffer. I didn't go any faster on that frame compared to like what I've been riding on, what I started the year on and raced up to this point. But I felt like, I think too, Brainerd's a little bumpy. It's a little, that midsection is a little different. And I felt like it might be a little benefit at some of the other tracks. And, I think it was, I think it was a little step at Ridge. And so I'm excited to try at Laguna, and the rest of the year. You know, I'm looking forward to Laguna. I think it's going to be pretty good. I heard that the new pavement or the paving company that did Road America did Laguna, which I'm pretty excited about because Road America was just glass smooth. It was a perfect surface. So that'll be pretty cool at Laguna. I'm curious to see what Dunlop does, bringing like what tires they're going to bring and stuff. But yeah, I think it's just going to kind of be a reset for everyone, just kind of getting used to that new pavement. And in a sense, it's a new track. Yeah, it's the same configuration, but when you have new pavement, it's just yeah, it's just a whole new ball game.
So with your bike and the changes that I've noticed, and what it seems like they put extra bracing on it. It looks like it's trying to make the frame stiffer. And from what I get, when you were racing in Moto2 the last couple of years, those chassis are pretty stiff, are extremely stiff. So is it to try to make the chassis stiffer so it turns better? And does it feel like it's getting more towards the stiffness that you had in your Moto2 bike, or can you not even compare the two?
They're so different. It's hard to even compare. Like the Moto2 chassis is so much stiffer than anything I've ever ridden. Like they are super unforgiving. They obviously turn and you know, they carve the corners like nothing I've ever ridden. That's for sure. But the Superbike, you're just looking what we're looking for right now is just mechanical grip. We have the power, and the thing's pretty good on the brakes. It feels stable. It's got a good feeling on the front end, but we're looking for just turning and some grip, like some edge to pickup grip. And it seems like a stiffer frame is what we needed. And we've messed with some other bracing on the stock frames also. And it seems like at least for me, when we go a little bit stiffer with the frame, we are able to find a little more grip. So definitely there's a balance to everything, because if you go too stiff, then you start running into chatter and some other problems. So we're definitely still just kind of finding our way, but it's going good so far.
When you get the mechanical grip that you're looking for, when you've got a swing arm that you're happy with, you've got the chassis frame that you're happy with, at that point, does it just turn into messing with electronics?
Yeah. It's funny too.
I mean, that part never stops, right?
Exactly. And like, from what I was saying too, with the engine braking too, it's sometimes like you can go in like down the wrong way, because you're thinking like, oh, maybe we can mask this with electronics, or maybe it's like the chassis problems making me feel like I'm losing grip on the side of the tire and all that stuff. But it's pretty easy to spin yourself in circles on this thing, but I've been happy with like the progress we've made, because when you're trying to go forward on a super bike, it is pretty easy to go backwards.
Now I can tell by, your demeanor and seeing you in the paddock and, hearing to you talk and reading your quotes, etc. And I can tell that it's a much more relaxed Cameron Beaubier, and you're happy and you go home on Mondays and you got the new baby and things are pretty good right now for Cameron Beaubier. Am I right?
I'd say so, man. Yeah, I'm definitely I'm happy. I'm happy right now. I've got a pretty solid program. It's been nice to fly home on Sunday nights and come back to Shelby and Brody and the dogs. And yeah, man, just having Brody and just seeing that healthy little baby it just puts a smile on my face. I can stare at him all day. He's pretty fun. So and besides that, it's just been cool having a new challenge. It's nice. It's nice coming back from Europe after what I've been able to learn over there and just those experiences. And yeah, it was tough, and I'm sure I was grumpy at times, a lot of times, but it was really an amazing experience, like looking back on it now. Like, yeah, in the moment, it was tough for sure, but like just coming back and having like this fresh new chapter with the Tytlers guys, it's fun, man. It's fun trying to chase down Jake and the guys, and it's super like motivating when you feel like we're making progress, you know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, it's all good right now. It's obviously, it's not always easy, but it's enjoyable right now.
It's funny too, because in talking to Jake Gagne, he's enjoying this more than he enjoyed the years when he just won all the races. And I think, a lot of that has to do with your relationship with him. He obviously likes you. He has a lot of respect for you. You guys have known each other and raced against each other for a long time, because he wasn't that way. And he will tell you, like, he did not want Petrucci to beat him. You know what I mean? That would grind him a lot more than Cameron Beaubier beating him, just because of the situation. The guy comes from Europe and all that stuff. And you guys are always pretty good about, being happy for the other guy when he wins. But it is funny to me, and it's great to see that Gagne is like really having fun, because he feels like he has somebody to battle with every week.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's fun, man. Like I've always rated Jake's talent level like off the charts. He's
well, I'm gonna interrupt
incredible.
you for a second, because when you left and we talked to you, or I talked to you, you told me, you're like, Gagne, you better watch out for Gagne because he'll win that championship. And not many people at that time probably thought that, but you got that right. So I want to give you some credit for that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, when it comes to just pure talent on a motorcycle, like any form of motorcycle, dirt, street, whatever, like that dude, he's on the top of the list. That's for sure. I feel like a guy like that, like he really appreciates and just like respects his, like what he has here, like he has a life outside of racing, which I really expect. Like he lives up in Colorado. He really enjoys his time home, going out with his family or his dog, and doing his thing up there. And I'm not saying racing's like just a job to him. Like he obviously he really enjoys racing like I do, but like he enjoys his life outside of racing. And I feel like he didn't really get great opportunities over in Europe to really show like what he's made of. So like maybe that's kind of a bummer, but I mean, look what he's done here in the last couple of years. It's super impressive. So definitely every time that guy beats me, I know why. Like he's an incredible rider for sure. And he's my buddy on top of it. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool rivalry. I want to talk about team dynamics a little bit. You touched on it somewhat. And I know when you were with Yamaha, it was well known, and it was such a family atmosphere. I mean, I was lucky enough to be part of that for a while too, and the camaraderie was terrific. And when you came back to the US, and I knew a little bit about Tytlers and had talked to Michael Kiley a little bit, but there was such an unknown at the beginning of the season of how this team was going to come together, and I really wasn't sure. But I'm very, very impressed now, particularly with your group of people. I've known Dave Weaver for a long time, and it's funny, he wears those tinted glasses, and for a while I was like, you know, he doesn't say a lot, but man, that guy is hilarious. He is so funny. I mean, we watch him on Pressure to Rise, and he's always got some quip. So he's got a real good attitude. And of course, your guy Seb Fontenelle, I think it is. I really like him as well. I don't know the guy that stood on the podium with you at Ridge. Paul and I were talking about it, but I understand you really get along with him really well. Is that right, Cameron?
Yeah, my team is cool, man. Like, especially now these last couple rounds, because obviously it's a new team to me. We've been testing during the off season and stuff, and we had a few races together. But you don't really get to know someone that well. It takes a few rounds, you know. So we built a good relationship, and yeah, Dave's funny, man. He's got a dry sense of humor, and
Yeah.
some of the stuff he says just cracks me up. His one-liners, and I don't even know an example, but some of the stuff he says just on the grid, just to like lighten the mood, it just cracks me up. But and then also, you know, Seb, my mechanic, he's a super good mechanic, and Ferdy's my buddy, and they're both French. So they're speaking French to each other. No one knows what they're saying. Like maybe they're just talking crap. Who knows about the rest of us? But they're super good mechanics. And yeah, they have us really dialed in on the weekends. And trust me, we've been changing a lot of stuff lately. But it's been cool. It's been super cool. I really like that Michael Kiley gave me the opportunity to bring Ferdy over and get him his visa and all that stuff from the World Championship, because he loves America. He really wanted to come over to America. He's all into downhill. He's going to go ride. He's going to go ride up at North Star this weekend, do some lift runs and stuff, and he just loves America. He loves California, and so it's pretty cool. He got that opportunity, and yeah, no, it's cool. Also, just bringing in some young blood to the paddock. You know, for how much he's done already at 25, he's worked in the World Championship for 6 years or something now, and so I feel like that's what we need. We need some young blood coming into this paddock, and so yeah, big thanks to Michael for letting that happen.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I got to give a shout out to your other guy, your electronics guy, Peter. So it's funny. He's Dutch. And I was on the bus from the rental car place over to the terminal, and there were a million people on there. And I looked over, and he was kind of a ways back. And so I, like, in the middle of the crowd, yelled out, "Hey, Peter Schouten." And he kind of looked around. I waved to him. So I waited till he got off the bus, and I said, are you going back to the Netherlands? And he said, "Yeah, I'm going back home." He said, and I said, "But Laguna?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going back, and I'm gonna come back here again." But I was surprised to know that he was going to do what he was doing. But he's fairly quiet, but I know he previously worked with, I think, World Superbike Honda's team at one point. So he's a seasoned guy and knows his stuff. What is it like when you sit down? I mean, like I used to talk about your dynamic with Rick Hobbs, and how sometimes you almost didn't really need to say anything. You could almost just you could almost communicate without that. But you've got a couple French guys on the team. You got crazy Dave Weaver, who doesn't look like he's, you know, he's a funny guy, but he's hilarious. And then you got Peter, who seems pretty quiet. It's like the United Nations over there. But are there any issues with language barrier, or how you
No,
with you guys? Okay.
I would say at first, because I use, I wouldn't call it slang, but I use like some different words than Peter understands sometimes when I'm describing what I'm feeling on the bike, especially like when I'm worked up and I'm trying to get my point across. So yeah, we're still working through that a little bit. but for the most part, it's great. Like, he's great. He really, you really know a guy is good when he can just look at the data and improve the bike from session to session without you even having to say anything. Like, he can just look at stuff and, okay, we need more EB here, we need more TC here, we need less power here. The bike's pushing you a little here, so he's super dialed in. And don't let him fool you. Yeah, he's Mr. Quiet Guy and stuff like that, but he's funny too, man. We got a pretty funny team dynamic. Like, he's pretty reserved, and same thing, like, pretty dry, but for example, like, I came in after I crashed, I was pretty pissed off, and I just like whacked the throttle wide open coming down pit lane, because I was just like, I was just mad. And in our debrief a couple hours later, and just in his accent, he was like, yeah, next time when you're coming down pit lane, to make it more dramatic, turn the pit limiter off, so you get higher in the RPM when you're throwing a fit. And it was just, and then his like little laugh it is funny. But no, it's been great to work with him and the rest of the guys. And what's cool is he'll go back to Germany, and it seems like he's always coming back with something like an update or just some info from what the World Superbike guys are doing over there, and how they're solving problems, and like what problems they have. So yeah, the whole thing's pretty cool.
Well, fortunately, chatter is a universal word.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead,
Man,
Sean.
I heard it like crazy at Ridge. Everybody was saying that.
Yeah, it seemed like Ridge, there's a couple, man, like, away from the little bumps we have here and there, like the second to last corner and that tight left after you go up over the hill, there were some bumps there. But I mean, I hadn't ridden there since 2020, and that whole facility is pretty amazing now. Like, they have a bunch of new pit garages, they have a bunch of new stands, there is a bunch of fans there. I mean, obviously it was 2020, so it was like COVID time when I was there, but it was really cool to see that place pretty packed compared to what I've seen the last couple of years watching on TV. And the track was amazing. Like, they repaved the track there a couple of years ago, from my understanding, and just that first chicane was a lot better. The curbs are really good. It's a pretty legit track now.
So there's a guy that used to be your teammate who honestly has been driving me a little crazy this year. He wasn't as bad last year, but I can't ever seem to get a hold of Garrett Gerloff anymore. He just big times the hell out of me. I've tried to get him on WhatsApp, whatever. We're on the same bike. You know how he is, Cameron. Do you communicate with him?
Mr. Big Time, dude. That's Mr. Big Time. No, I'm just kidding. I was actually just talking to him yesterday, just messaging back and forth with him on WhatsApp about just about the BMW, actually. So
yeah, he probably wants yours.
And yeah, no, I mean, you just got to download Snapchat. You'll find him on Snapchat.
That's it.
He got a haircut too. I was watching
finally
this morning.
God, he needed it. He needed it so bad. That was ridiculous. Jeez. Did he shave his chin whiskers off too?
No.
That's good. I'm glad that you talked to him, because I wondered if you guys compared any notes at all with regard to the bike, because, obviously it's early days for him on that bike too. And there's so much that he thinks he can get out of it as well. So I remember it had to be 2014 with you. I'll never forget. I think it was the first 2014. Wasn't that the first year you rode the super bike at Daytona, the R1?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
I remember at the first practice session, and I tweeted this out then too, and it got a lot of engagement back then, long time ago. But I remember you came in, you may remember this. You said, I just went 190 miles an hour in fifth gear.
No, it was like 200 something.
Oh, it was 200.
Yeah, it was over 200. And I remember I came in and I was complaining about I was like, man, like, I feel like, because we had a massive tailwind, and going into one, I was on the limiter for a while in fifth, And I was like, yeah, like I think we can go a little shorter on the gearing. And they're like, you're in sixth gear, or you're in fifth gear. And I was like, what? Oh, what? Yeah, hit 200 something miles an hour in fifth gear is pretty insane.
I will never forget that. I'm going to take that one to my grave. Every once in a while, it pops in my head, and I kind of laugh about it. So, with that in mind, I mean, you were on an absolutely a rocket ship now. What is it like to be on a bike? I mean, is it just twist it and you're like, you've got that speed when you can use that speed? Is it something that you just have confidence in having on with that bike?
Yes, and it's still coming. It's the way it makes it's really fast in a straight line. Don't get me wrong. But the way it makes power is a lot less friendly than what I've been used to in the past. And so, um, actually like slowing the thing down and calming it down has been a big benefit. So, um, yeah, like, but then when we get to the big tracks, you know, for example, Road Atlanta on the back straightaway and Road America on all the straights, like it's pretty incredible how fast that thing is. And just with the wings up front, just how planted it feels on the brakes, and even just like coming up the front straightaway, not having to like roll out as much as you would think. Um, it's a pretty impressive bike, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I know Garrett feels the same way. I want to talk a little bit about well, Moto2 in particular. I'm sure you're still paying attention. I'm sure you're seeing what's going on out there. And I've got a bunch of questions around this, but I'm going to try to blend them into one. So, do you have any thoughts on, I don't know. I don't know if SDK has another year with American Racing or not. I don't know that he does. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Joe next year. It's been a tough year for both of them. And then I saw this morning, you guys have probably saw it, that there was apparently SDK is going to get compartment surgery done on whatever arm or both arms, but he's having a lot of arm pump issues. So he's going to deal with that. So kind of, do you have any idea what you think might be going on with those guys for next year? And also, how do you feel about watching Moto2 this year? Are the guys that are doing what they're doing what you expect? Are there any surprises that you see? I think I remember one of your good friends is Tony Arbolino, and I've seen him towards the front a little bit this year too. So
Jake Dixon.
oh,
Yeah.
Jake Dixon. Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about
the first
Moto2.
race.
That's right. That's right. So talk about Moto2 a little bit, and then kind of that American racing team and our American riders, Joe Roberts as well. And tell me what you think's going on there.
Long question.
Shoot, I mean, I think I I think I think Pedro and Arbolino are really, really impressive riders. Also Ogura is he's a really incredible rider. Yeah, he's struggled there at the beginning of the year a little bit because I think he crashed a dirt bike in the off season and broke his wrist. And he's been struggling with that coming back. And that really just puts in perspective how competitive and how on point you have to be in that class, because for a guy to win as many races as he did and always up front last year, to come back with just a touch off. And when I'm saying a touch off, he's maybe 2/10 off, but look what 2/10 does in that class, you know? So I think that he is going to be, when he moves up to MotoGP, when Arbolino and Acosta move up, I think they're going to be really impressive. And I hope Jake gets a shot too. I know he's 27 now or something like that, but he's been riding really incredible, and I think that he will be better on a big bike. So it's that class is brutal, man. It's pretty amazing how fast all those guys are. And it's so easy for people to sit at home and write guys off. Like when you see SDK struggling, you know, like people just have to realize that, like, just because he's sniffing around the points, like right around there, top 20, like he's still an amazing rider. Like all those guys they've been riding those tracks and those bikes for years, and they are literally the best in the world. And like, let's be honest, like they're probably on better teams too. So it's tough over there. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, I hope the best for Sean. That's a bummer he's dealing with the arm pump stuff. I've been there in my career, and I think that he actually did go to Dr. Brian over the off season, because I gave him his contact, and it sounded like they were going to sort something out. But maybe he's still dealing with some of it. So I'm not really sure. I haven't talked to him too much about it. And then same thing with Joe. Like I'm not sure. Like I said, just if you're just a couple tenths off in that class, especially in qualifying, like if you qualify outside the first 3-4 rows, you're making your life really tough on you. So it's one of those things though, like Joe is just loaded with talent. Like one week and he'll just show up and put the thing on the podium, and you'll be like, oh, like there's Joe. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that in the next couple rounds after the summer break. But yeah, I'm curious to see what their options are and what they do for next year. I think the one thing, especially for Sean, like he's only 21 years old, and I don't see him. I don't see why he wouldn't do better next year if he gets another opportunity. So time will tell.
Yeah, Cameron, I've become kind of selfish about you riders. Of course, we missed you over in Moto2 and being able to talk to you, but I can't tell you how thrilled I am that you're back here, not just because of what I think of you as a person, but what it means to our sport and what's happened to Superbike. I would be perfectly happy if every American rider would come back to this country and just go crazy in MotoAmerica, because I think it's become that competitive, and it would be incredible if we had that, our best American talent from around the world. Look what it's done to have you in there again. We've got a legitimate, not a rivalry, but it's a battle. We don't know what's going to happen in every round. It's good for us. And I don't know, screw the world, I guess is how I feel about it. It's just how I feel. I mean, it's so good to have our best here in our premier series. So, and I'm real glad that you're happy to be here too, but it's just something I wanted to say.
Yeah, and everyone's different, like I know Joe and Sean, like they really want to be on the world stage, and they're obviously younger than me, and there's no reason they shouldn't be. They're both incredible riders. I'm just at like a different spot in my career now, and I'm sure they'll get there someday too, where they I guess their priorities have like changed a little bit. So for me. So but I mean, who knows? Like that would be pretty cool if they did come back in the future, and we added a couple more guys to the list of who could win on Saturday, Sunday in MotoAmerica, because it is growing, man. It's pretty cool to see where it's at, even just from when I left.
Okay, time to be honest again. When you watch Moto2 races, because I do this, and I want to know if you do it too, but when I'm watching the Moto2 races now, I'm like, oh, I think Cameron would be like third here. And I think he'd probably be, okay, I think he'd be fourth by now. Okay, I think I kind of do that based on what I saw last year and based on the progression you were making. Do you watch those races a little bit and try to think where you'd be?
Yeah, a little bit. Like when I'm watching time, because like, I mean, I'm a fan of MotoGP. Like I watch all the practices and all the qualifyings and all the races. Like I just love it. I love it. But I like as a competitor, I can't help but think like, oh man, like they're doing this time, like I did this time last year, and kind of put stuff together like that. But yeah, I think more than anything, when I'm watching the races, especially like Assen for this previous round, I'm looking and seeing just like I saw like where I almost, I crashed out with 4 laps to go or something like that. But I just like, I kind of kicked myself because I was like, man, I could have made my life so much easier if I qualified better. Because you just look back at like some of those rounds that I had last year where I I was I'd kind of struggle to just put a lap time up in qualifying. I'd find myself 18th on the grid, and then I'd have some really good rides through the pack, like up into top 5, and then I'd toss it away, and it's so more than anything when I'm watching, I'm just kind of kicking myself, like, dude, like if I stayed up for a couple more laps, or I don't know, but
Right.
I was definitely riding over my head a lot those last couple years. Um, but I feel like it's made me a better rider for sure.
I was going to ask you that. I mean, it looks like from the outside looking in, it looks like you're a better rider, and you would be just based on the experience of those last couple of years. But I also think you look to me like you're more aggressive than you were when you left here. Like even like in the first, I think it was the second race at Ridge, you guys fired off into that chicane thing, and you were kind of a little bit on the outside, but then you just stuffed it under somebody. I don't remember who it was. It might have been Heron, and then you guys kind of came out together. But you look to be more aggressive than you used to be. Am I right in that?
Yeah, but I think at the same time, in the past, I wasn't in a position where I had to be super aggressive because I felt like I had a little time on some of the guys.
True.
But right now, I don't feel like that. Like I feel like if Jake gets away too early, I'm dead meat. So I feel like it puts me in a position where I have to be a little more aggressive.
And I
And
think it's done that with everybody.
yeah, and I mean, for sure, the last couple years um, helped that because if you're not aggressive, if you're not passing someone on the first lap, you're going backwards. So, uh, yeah, I can say that helped out for sure.
When we talked earlier in the year, you weren't sure yet because you hadn't even, well, maybe you tested it or whatever. But I asked you if, if you were going to stick with that Moto2 style, or if you'd be back to your old style, and you sort of thought it would probably be somewhere in between. Has that been the case?
Yeah, I'd say, what's funny you say that is when I first got on the BMW, I kind of reverted straight back to more of a super bike upright style, but I feel like right now it's somewhat of a mix. I definitely don't hang off as much as I did on the Moto2 bike, but I feel like I hang off more than when I left.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I haven't looked at the pictures side by side, which is what I did last year, and you could see a big difference. But it'd be interesting to look at some photos and kind of see what that body positioning's like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember, Paul, you would do kind of a side by side with Cameron in some of our social media posts to
Yeah,
show.
and it was a huge difference.
Yeah, it's amazing. Cameron, I want to talk about your crash at Ridge. So I didn't know this, and I want to know if you knew this, but when you went down and the concept of actively competing has been bandied about a lot this year, and it's been made fun of. But, from the moment you went down, you were actively competing in terms of getting back on the bike as quickly as you could. You did it really quick. I just didn't know that the amount of time that it took you to do that was exactly what they were timing, and that they used that to basically position you in the results. And did you have any idea that when you went down, it's like, oh, I got to get back on the bike as quick as possible because this amount of time is what's going to count against me? I mean, did you even consider that?
No, I was just running back to my bike because my bike was completely fine. Like I would have been able to finish those 3 laps. Like I was honestly pretty angry that I saw the red flag. Because I was like, man, like there goes my race. They're gonna DNF me because because the red flag was caused by me. Yeah, but like I said, when I picked my bike up, I turned the thing on, it fired up right away, and I was completely fine to finish those 3 laps, and I would have ended up 7th, which is what they credited it with me anyways. So
Right.
yeah, I was honestly kind of surprised to see I had 9 points, 7th place points, but in reality, that's where I would have been anyways if they didn't red flag.
And the other part of that, I want to ask you, I'm going to ask it anyway, but Josh Hayes used to make fun of me all the time when the times that he would crash, I'd say, did you expect to crash? And he always would laugh and go, no, I didn't expect to crash. But my point in this, I don't know how to articulate it any better than when that happened. Did it surprise you, or did you feel like you might have done something that, yeah, this, I no wonder I went down. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I was, I think I was asking a little too much going into there for sure. The rear end kicked out pretty good on me. And it was not coming back. Like it was just kept sliding, and then slowly came back, but at the worst time, right over the bumps. And we actually made a change from Saturday to Sunday. Peter brought over some stuff that allowed us to change up the engine braking strategy a little bit from like lean angle based to RPM based. And I feel like that is going to help, especially at tracks like we have here in America that are a little bumpy. You're not always on like the right. You can take a little different line and not be quite as consistent and not really lose time compared to some of the tracks in Europe that are a little flatter and you have to be more consistent on. So I think going into that corner, for example, I was in there a little hot, and so I put a little more lean angle into the bike, and I was just trying to get it to the apex because I knew I was in there hot, and I was excited. I had just caught up to Jake, and we only had 3 laps left, and I was pretty pissed after that race for sure because, yeah, just to work that hard to track Jake down, and I was only taking like a 10th or so out of him a lap, and then it seemed like he would pull me some laps, and it was a pretty exhausting race just to get up to the back of him. I was kind of riding over the limit at some point. So yeah, that sucked, but at least we went back and figured some stuff out for Sunday, and we were able to get it done Sunday.
I want to ask you real quick about WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. It's funny because that track, I mean, it's a track that's nearer to you, but it's not exactly close by. And I don't know if you necessarily consider it a home track in that you didn't, you don't ride on it any more than any other track. And it was the same way with Sonoma. It was closer to your home, but you still didn't ride on it any more than anybody else. But I'll never forget that one year in Daytona Sport Bike. I think it was when you were racing against Cardenas, and it was like the last corner or something. But you beat him like right at the last second on that race, and that's when I was pretty impressed with what you could do at that track. You like that track? What is it about it? And it can't be just that it's semi close to where you're at. There's got to be something about that. And even on the BMW, what are you going to like about it? Because it's certainly not known for a track that's got a lot of sections where you can really wring the neck on your BMW. So what are you looking forward to about that track?
Yeah, I don't know. Something about Laguna is just it's just a special track. I think I really just enjoy that weekend every year. Not only because the track's so cool, but just like at night you can go downtown and Monterey or Cannery Row, and you see all the bikes lined up on Cannery Row, and everyone's just having a good time. And too, like a lot of my family and friends get to come out to that race because it's a few hours down the road from us, and that's always special, being able to race in front of your family and friends, and just having them there and enjoying the weekend. And it's pretty hard not to enjoy yourself when you're in Monterey for the weekend and you get to go to the racetrack and then go out to Cannery Row area at night. So yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a different beast on this bike. The Yamaha rolls pretty dang good around that place. But I also said that about Ridge. So I think yeah, we just got to go in pretty optimistic. And like I said, with the new pavement too, it's just new for everyone. So we'll see.
All right, I'm going to ask you this because somebody asked me and I hadn't really given it much thought, but with BMW's big presence in World Superbike, if they said, "Hey Cam, could you come over and help us?" or this guy got injured and could you come ride the bike for us once? I don't think you'd be interested in going to the World Superbike Championship full time, but would it interest you to go do a wild card ride if they wanted you to?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that would be really cool. I think it would just have to be, it would have to work out for both of us, you know. I do think, man, it's tough because I feel like there is really good potential in that bike. But I feel like I got a taste of what they had been struggling with these past couple of years, earlier this year, and even still now. There's a lot of stuff we've thrown at the bike that gives you a different feel, but you don't see anything different on the lap timer. So I think that's kind of what they're going through, but I know they're going to make a big push going into next year with Top Rack coming, and I think that thing's going to get better and better. So yeah, I mean, if I had the opportunity, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think the Top Rack thing, like you mentioned, it to me it really shows a big commitment on BMW's part, and I think ultimately the trickle down from that guy being signed by that team, the trickle down is gonna ultimately help you guys as well.
Yeah, no, I agree.
All right, that's all I've got. Sean, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm good too. It's funny. It's ironic, Cameron. I know you realize this, but they're racing at Donington this weekend, where you did race a World Superbike round in the past. So I was even thinking, did you want to be over there this weekend? It's just to see what it was like, because you know the track.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, to be honest with you guys, they did actually ask me a few rounds ago if I could fill in. I think it was after Vandermark got hurt, or maybe right around Vandermark Baz when they got hurt, because they got hurt pretty close to each other. But then Baz came back pretty quick. But just with the way life's gone lately, I think it was a conflicting round with a race here and maybe even like a test here. And obviously with Brody coming, like there was no way I was able to go do something like that right now. So hopefully that, obviously I want those guys to stay healthy, but it'd be pretty cool to get an opportunity to get over there and do something with them in the future. But I'm pretty content with what I got going right now with the Tytlers guys, and yeah, and BMW's been awesome too on their side. They've been taking good care of me. They actually gave me a loaner, an X5 loaner for Shelby and I this year, so that's pretty cool. And yeah.
Oh, Cameron, I got to tell you something real quick, Paul. Sorry, I got to get this in here. So at Barber, Paul knows this. At Barber, I don't know what happened, but when I landed, they didn't have any rentals left. So they actually gave me an X5 at the Enterprise counter. And I got into the thing and I could not even figure out how to start it, put it in gear. And then there's that weird thing with raising and lowering the height of the thing. It's got two bells and whistles. I don't even know what to do.
Oh, they're so luxury. It's crazy. Like I've never had a car, or anything quite like this. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. You've seen the cars that this guy normally shows up in. No, seriously, it looks like clowns getting out of that thing.
Hey, I remember
Sean Bice style.
I remember, you're talking about me, for sure. It's always as Richie Doan says, I drive a one-door hatchback. That's what he always says. So. And it is a clown car. Anyway, all right, I think we're good.
All right, Cameron, thanks as always for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
All right, thanks guys. Thanks for having me on.
No worries, bye.
See ya.